sans dire à tout.
What is going on, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yes, it is Tuesday, so it is Nocturnal Transmissions time, as always, and we're mostly on schedule, so, pat on the back for us there. Yes, co-hosting, with me, as always, as ever, is the homeboy Rob.
Yo.
All right. Well, it's been quite an interesting week. So let's get this conversation started.
Yeah, the week has been all over the place, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess Let's. I guess we could start off with what we did over the weekend. So, Rob, anything? Did you do anything special or out of the ordinary?
No, I worked mostly this weekend, so there was that. No, I know that I watched a few movies this weekend. Just one was particularly for our podcast, so there was that. But most of the time I was spent working and well, actually this weekend. So my car battery died, so I had to get that replaced.
Oh no!
So that was great.
Mm-hmm.
Spending money that I didn't really want to spend.
Right.
Car batteries are expensive, man. They're like $200.
Yeah. I think they are, and I think my car battery is due for a change out soon. Also, I think it's been about 3 years or so since I last got it changed.
Well, the problem was that because I paid off all my bills for the month,
mm-hmm.
and then I was kind of on an economy run because I've been putting more of my money into my retirement account since I can actually do that now.
All right.
And so I was like, I knew I needed to change my battery, it was getting close. I was like, just give me one more week until payday, and it died. It sucked.
Uh-huh.
So there was that.
Is it completely dead, or could you at least jumpstart it?
Oh, it completely died, but I was able to jumpstart it, and then that day that it died, I went to the hardware or the part shop and got a new battery. So, and I just changed it out myself. So,
right, yeah, 'cause you're a man.
I mean, I had a little bit of help. I did it with my dad, but it just so it would go faster.
Right. Of course.
So that was my weekend, mate.
Wait, what was the movie that you watched again? I mean, other than Casablanca.
Oh no, that was there was that, and then what other? I watched some other movie too. I think it was another old movie, and now I can't remember what it was. I watched a few movies this weekend. It was just I watched I think it might have been North by Northwest that I watched.
Okay.
But I didn't watch it because I have a bunch of those movies, but it was just one of those random Turner Classic Movies things, and I was like, oh, this is on, cool. So I watched that, but I don't remember what it was. I was kind of tired when I was watching it.
I see.
And then was it this week for you gaming fans out there? E3's kicked off this weekend, and just been kind of enjoying what some of the gaming news that's been coming out.
Right. Wait, are they doing a live stream of some of the things, some of the keynotes or whatever?
Yeah, they have been doing that. I haven't been able to get to watch a lot of those. But I have caught some of the news that's been coming out, and some of the new games that are going to be coming out within the next year or so.
Mm-hmm.
One that's huge is Kingdom Hearts 3 finally has a set release date.
Mm-hmm.
That's a game I've been waiting for quite some time. That'll be coming out next January. They have a January release date.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's 2 games that are coming out later this year that got some extra like trailers and stuff. There's a new Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is set in the times of, I think, Sparta.
Mm.
So we got that, and then there's Dragon Quest XI, which is coming out also, I think, like in September. Both those are coming out. Like Dragon Quest is coming out in September, and the Assassin's Creed game is coming out October 5th, I believe, which is just after our birthday. And I normally buy like collector's editions of games, but I'm thinking this year I might buy the collector's edition of both those games, just because it looks like they got a lot of cool stuff that comes with them.
See.
So those are some of the games I'm excited about. I think there was like one. There's a new Fallout that's coming out. That's supposed to be like essentially an online only game, which to be honest, I'm not like super excited about. And then there was one other release that I thought was kind of interesting, but there's going to be a new Elder Scrolls. So it's the recent one was Skyrim, but there's going to be a new Elder Scrolls 6 that's going to be coming out sometime. They didn't really have like a release date, but they had like a short trailer that they premiered, so it's in the works.
I see.
So that was my weekend.
That was your weekend. Okay. Wait, is E3 is like the weekend, right? Or is it still going on?
It's still going on, yeah. I think they had the it was like either yesterday or today was all of the Nintendo had all their press conferences and stuff.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because a buddy of mine, he put up a picture of outside the LA Convention Center, and so
yeah,
today. So I guess they're still having it. Is it just the weekend, or is it a week-long thing?
I think it's like a week-long thing. So it's gonna. I think if it hasn't wrapped up already, it's gonna be over very soon.
I see. Wow. Well, I had kind of an eventful weekend. Kind of some funny things happened to me. But to start it off, I did finally watch Chinatown.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I gotta say that movie. I mean, yes, it was made by a drug peddling rapist, but it's a beautiful movie.
Who did Chinatown?
Roman Polanski.
Oh, was that him that did that movie?
Yeah, he even has a little cameo in it.
Was that before or after the Sharon Tate murder? Yeah.
Oh, right. God, I forget when Chanting.
Right?
What?
That movie was from the 70s, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was filmed in the 70s.
Okay, yeah, so that's after the Sharon Tate murder.
Yeah. But yeah, still, but definitely before like the whole rape thing.
You know, I wonder if if he was kind of a fucked up guy before or like before that happened, or like after like his like wife and like kid were murdered by Charles Manson. It's like when he was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna fuck anybody.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because like all the like the rape accusation stuff came after the murders, so it was it's like it's one of those chicken or the egg things.
Yeah, because it was pretty. I've been listening to a podcast on like serial killers, and Charles Manson was one of the first people that they did an episode on, and it was kind of man, it was really horrific what they did to Sharon Tate and like all those people. It's really gruesome.
Yeah. But not to derail it too much. It's actually a good movie.
Who's all in that movie?
What was that?
Who's all in that movie?
What was it? Jack Nicholson, Faye Dunaway. I mean, those are like the big names. I don't know if I mentioned anybody else from the cast, like it would resonate or people would be able to recognize. But again, those are the
main stars.
Yeah, those are the main stars. Oh, fun! Interestingly enough, James Hong is in it. He plays the butler to Faye Dunaway's character. And for those of you who don't know who James Hong is, he's had a long career in Hollywood. Usually playing like either the background character or like specifically those like that center around like Chinatown or like Chinese people. But he was the blind master in Balls of Fury, and he was the voice of in Kung Fu Panda, the dad, the duck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just a man of fear. I think he was also in Big Trouble in Little Chinatown.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah. He doesn't get he doesn't get to appear on the magazine covers, but he's had a long and I think steady career in Hollywood.
Yeah, he's been around for a while.
Yes, but yes, this movie is very technically beautiful. I mean, just because it was filmed on actual physical film, and it was well balanced, and all the images are still very crisp and just really beautiful to look at. I mean, because I'm a photographer, I kind of appreciate like the little technical things about it, but also very compelling story. I have to say. It also takes some historical elements from actually, history from Los Angeles, and weaves a very interesting tale.
Very cool, very cool. So, what prompted you to watch Chinatown?
What was it? What was it? Steven Crowder, was I forget what he was talking about, but he had made the claim that Chinatown was a better movie than Godfather.
I hadn't heard that claim. Was that like on one of his shows during the week?
Yeah, something like that. I forget exactly what he was like specifically talking about, but he did make the claim, or in his opinion, Chinatown is a better movie than Godfather. And
I'm gonna have to check in on that because I love The Godfather.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. And so I grew up watching The Godfather. Fun, interestingly enough, both Godfather and Chinatown both came out at the same time, and they were both up for Best Picture, Oscar that year. But Godfather won. And so
because that's definitely a movie I've never seen, Chinatown, so I might have to check that out now too, because that's I really love The Godfather. I thought that was
one of
the greatest films ever.
Yeah, and it is, and so he makes this claim. I'm like, and I'm all about The Godfather, so. I was like, all right, how good could it really be? And so finally, I took the time to watch it, and I don't know, because like my love for The Godfather is just like really strong. So I mean, I'm trying. As I was watching it, I wasn't trying to look for flaws in Chinatown. And I was also trying to make sure that like my own biases for Godfather weren't influencing me to favor more in Godfather. And I think for the most part I was successful because I still enjoyed Chinatown, and I thought it was a really good story, and I thought it was a real, there was, I think there was a really good twist at the end, and and I think, and it was like this weird, almost redemption kind of story for Jack Nicholson's character, which was very interesting, and like yeah.
I'll have to check that out this week
Yeah, it was a
because
good
now
one.
I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I don't know if my Godfather love will let me say that if Chinatown was a better movie than Godfather, but it was good. I will agree that Chinatown is a good movie.
I will say I'm kind of on that search for what is like the greatest film in filmdom.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very subjective cause apparently, but
Yeah, of course.
we one of the consistent films on that list has always been Citizen Kane.
Right. Yeah.
And I argue that while it's a very, very, it's a great film. Don't get me wrong. I like Citizen Kane, but I wouldn't say it's the best film of all time.
Mm. I mean, okay. Well, I'm gonna go a little bit out of order and say what I did on Sunday. Sunday I did go watch another movie called Upgrade. I don't know if you heard of it.
I have not.
No. It's like it's set place, kind of in the near distant future.
Okay.
Where this guy, he was in this accident, in this car accident with his wife, and like, they get what is it? They get preyed on by like this street gang of sorts, and the wife is murdered, and the husband is left paralyzed, and then the husband is given this opportunity to try this new, experimental, non FDA approved technology, which is like a microchip that will help, uh, communicate, be like the go between where his spine was broken, and to regain the use of his body because he becomes a paraplegic.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there's like this, sophisticated AI that that kind of like, that talks to him, and then it's kind of a revenge tale too, because he wants to get, find out who killed his wife, and so the AI kind of assists him. And but I will say it's not your typical revenge film, because there is a twist at the end which like I didn't see coming at all, and I don't think half of the audience did either. So it's I would recommend watching this movie.
Was it in theaters or was it
Yeah,
just
it's in
something
theaters right now. It's called Upgrade.
I have not heard anything about this movie.
Yeah, it's like what on the it's like on the lower, it's like a small budget kind of film, but still still has like a pretty I think Jordan Peele helped produce it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because it was the same studio that produced what is it, Get Out.
Okay. That sounds
Yeah.
well. I'm gonna have
But
to
yeah, I
check
don't
that
know
out.
why it hasn't gotten more publicity.
Yeah, I haven't seen any advertisements for it. But then again, I also haven't been to the theater either, so I haven't seen. I haven't seen it out.
Right,
seen it
right,
there.
right.
But you recommend it? It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd recommend it.
Is it like is it more of kind of like a sci-fi like revenge flick or something like that, or is it scary at all?
Because they're funny. There are humorous elements. There are comedic moments, but I wouldn't necessarily call this a comedy. And it doesn't take itself so seriously that I would classify it as a drama. But I will say, yes, the ending is something I didn't see coming. Because usually for me, I'm able to kind of see what the ending is going to be like, because because the director might have like telegraphed what the ending was going to be. But for this,
But not in this case.
Was it?
But not in this case.
But not in this case. No.
I like that.
Yes.
I might have to check it out.
Yes, I do. I do recommend it. I guess one last thing. I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily want to talk about this, but I won't give like too many details. But I went out. I went out last night with James and Jason. And some other friends. And and it was kind of like a special occasion because we actually got one of our friends to come out with us who doesn't usually go out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we go out and we're hanging out, we're having a good time, and and he ends up having a really good time. Afterwards, it was kind of late at night, and so we decided to go grab a bite to eat. And a friend of James called him up and was saying like, asked what he was doing, and said, "Oh, I'm about to go grab a bite to eat." And they're in the general area as us, and so James invited his friend to come and hang out, and James's friend did, along with her sister, and so we're all at the restaurant. We're just chilling and relaxing, and my friend, he's someone who kind of lacks certain social graces.
Mm-hmm.
And so like during the conversation, James's friend's sister asked me like what I do for a living, and I was about to answer, or no, not what I do for. She asked me, something kind of, something. She asked about something personal about me, and I was about to answer, but my friend, he, again, because he lacks some like social graces, he ends up answering for me, but reveals more than what I would want to have been disclosed.
Awesome.
And so luckily, the friend and her sister, are cool, and so they're just kind of rolling with the punches. But I'm not someone that embarrasses easily, but I did, and I wouldn't necessarily say that I was embarrassed at that moment, but it was one of those like, oh, I wish you wouldn't have disclosed that.
Yeah.
And so, and I mean, nothing, there's no, we talked about it afterwards, and there's no hard feelings. But and I understand that in in my friend's attempt to esteem me, to lift me up, he didn't do it in the most socially acceptable way.
Right.
Yeah.
I know people like that. So.
What was that?
No, I know people exactly like that, where it's like, wow, okay, like this person obviously cannot read a room to save his life.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, again, so like no hard feelings, and we did talk about it, and I let him know, hey, some things are privileged information that I only share with you, and that it should only stay between me and you. And so,
right.
Yeah, but and so, yeah, that was my weekend.
Sounds like a pretty fun weekend, man.
Yeah, I do what I does, what I do, what I does. But
yeah, overall, my weekend was pretty good too. I can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're happy and you were fulfilled.
I was.
Right. Okay. It took a little bit.
So which more topics should we jump into first, Andy?
I mean, yeah, like this, this kind of like beginning part, like kind of took up longer than we thought. So maybe we should, jump into, spicier topic, first.
Okay.
Do like a sandwich, spicy, spicy, bland, spicy.
Okay, sounds good. We can do that.
So, what would you prefer?
You're the moderator, Andy. I'm just here to look good.
Right? You're just here to look pretty. All right. Well, I guess since it's like the most recent, I guess we can talk about Trump. And
that's always
and what?
What
was it?
Always a good place to start.
Right. Yeah. So for those of you,
hey, if you want, I will say, if you want hate comments, Trump is a great way to start off.
That is true. That is true. Although, like in the title of tonight's stream, I did leave a question. I did leave it as a question. It's like Trump peacemaker.
Nice.
Because I'm diplomatic like that. Yes, but for those of you who are not living under a rock or currently in geosynchronous orbit above the Earth, as President Donald Trump met with Chairman Kim Jong-un in Singapore and supposedly came to a denuclearization agreement.
Yeah, that's pretty huge news.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always, when it comes to the North Koreans, I'm always skeptical as to whether or not they're actually going to keep their word.
Mm-hmm.
They've been liars for essentially 70 years. And the other thing too is there's rumor that they pretty much destroyed their own nuclear program.
Right.
And so it's brought them to the table anyways.
Yeah, because the facilities were just meant for testing, and so like they tested, they refined, and I think they have like at least a couple of nuclear devices. And so, like them, closing down the testing facilities, it doesn't, it doesn't seem like a big thing since they've already, tested and more or less perfected the devices.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's there was a statement that I heard today where it's like it's not time to necessarily like pop champagne bottles and get super excited, but it's definitely a positive start in the right direction with North Korea. And to me, like, the ball's in their court. Like, if they're really serious, they'll follow through, and we'll just have to wait and see.
Right. Well, I mean, I think we came out more ahead than most people are willing to give credit to the president for.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. I do agree with that.
Because we came in very on very good footing coming into this into negotiations and things, and we already got them to kind of give us stuff beforehand, like with the prisoners or Trump got them to release the prisoners for nothing,
Right, and I think the real, unlike in past negotiations with North Korea, we came in with all the leverage as we've always had all the leverage concerning the North Koreans, but for whatever reason we have never acted like we have like all the leverage. And whatever you guys think about like Trump, he came in and was like, yeah, you know what, like he got those prisoners free for nothing. And when they were trying to play games, he's like, well, all right, well, fine.
They try to bluff him by saying like, oh, you guys are having war games with Korea. We can't, that's an open like act of aggression towards North Korea. And like demanded that we not have war games anymore, and or they'd pull out of the talks, and just like, okay, whatever, and those, and then again, yeah, and then so and then Trump he calls them on that bluff, is like, okay, fine, whatever, no talks,
go back to your shithole country.
Yeah, go. Right, and then as he's about to walk away, Kim is just like, oh no, just kidding.
Yeah, I mean that's essentially what happened, and so like I said, it's
yeah, because I mean, there's no humility in a strong man acting weak. Which is essentially the United States. There's no point of us to pretend like we're weak. Especially since like the world knows that I mean we were the only country to actually drop nuclear weapons in a time of war. And
True.
so they know that we have the capability, and and to a certain extent we do have the will, because we did drop these terrible devices of war.
I think there's a saying is that like a strong man is one that has all the power yet has the control to like not use it. And honestly, North Korea, we could take that country in 10 minutes. if we really wanted to, but we don't, and and I think it's like, so to come in like we're like they have something to like they have something against us or whatever. It's like they don't. We have all the strength, we have all the leverage, and finally we had a president who had the balls to come at the situation just like that. And I think, and because of that, there's finally some positive results that, this is the first time in 70 some years that there's actually been any sort of progress with that country at all.
Right. And I mean, yeah, they're like saying like, oh, we gave up, doing war games with South Korea, one of our allies. It's like, whoa, what does that really do? Except that, just kind of like, kind of, wave our dicks, in front of North Korea every year or so.
Yeah.
That's all that the war games were doing. It's just like it's just showing. It was just waving our dicks at North Korea.
We didn't. No, we didn't take any troops out of like South Korea or anything like that, did we?
I don't believe so.
Oh yeah, then if that's the case, then yeah. Okay,
at least not yet. Right, because I do think that would be the next like step.
Because I looked at like some of the terms of the agreement, and it didn't seem like that was the case. Like I think it was pretty much all like North Korea giving up stuff.
Right, but that would be the next step if North Korea adheres to the agreement. Because if a year go, because I think like the timeline is like by next year they'd either have to start or like be in the process of dismantling their nuclear facilities, and if that doesn't happen, then the agreement is null and void, and the U.S. goes back to doing war games with Korea.
Yeah, because my concern is because it's a country of notorious liars that the moment that we start pulling some of the troops out from South Korea, that they start doing stuff that it's like okay, well, you completely broke the agreement. Now it goes back to being the same thing, which is it's all right. Well, obviously you can't be trusted, and then it's like, well, do we go into somewhat of an armed conflict, or if we just go back to status quo with North Korea, where we just keep putting sanctions on their country and starve them out.
Right. But I think one of the brilliant things that happened was that Trump brought China into this, and was like, hey, if North Korea messes this up, then we're gonna take this out on you too.
Yeah, I mean, because the reality is that China's their only like real backer anymore.
Yeah, and like that, and like and the only reason why they did Singapore was like because I think Singapore does some like limited trading with North Korea.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I mean, I'm not necessarily, and maybe it doesn't mean like we're gonna get into war with China, but we're definitely gonna make them pay for it economically because the U.S. is one of the biggest traders with China.
Right.
And so if the Chinese don't help like with like kind of keeping him on script, then that's actually one of the things that Trump has proven, like that if you cross him, he will retaliate.
True.
He did it. He did it in ISIS. He did it to ISIS. He did it to Syria. He has established a pattern of behavior that if you cross him or you do not live up to your word, then he will retaliate.
Yeah, I mean that's very true.
Yes, and and Kim Jong-un knows that like the U.S. could take over his country in 5 minutes.
Because they're all starving to death, and most people are like, "Oh, you want the country? Thank God."
Yeah, I know.
I can't think of 10 people that would back up Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, I mean, and like we wouldn't even have to. Yeah, we wouldn't even have to use nukes. All we'd have to do is, show, show a force, a show of force, and like really, but to, like, really bring it to bear. Like, I'm talking about like 50, destroyers, 10, carriers. Get the Marines to land on the beaches, and
It's over.
have like a few squadron of F-22s fly over, and just like it's just be like Kim will be presenting the keys and the deed over to, okay, all yours.
Yeah, it's yeah. Well, I mean, it's like I said. I think it's a a step in the right direction,
Right?
And maybe at some point, the end to the Korean conflict. I mean, that'd be my hope.
Right? I mean, yeah, because
and potentially reunifying Korea, but getting rid of the someone like the Kim dynasty, and just getting rid of those people and reunifying Korea.
Right. I mean, yes. Again, I mean, I've said this before, but right now, I would not want reunification. Only because
no, I don't think that's a good idea right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the right time for that, for that reunification, because first they got to put to bed the Korean War, which I don't think they have yet. I don't think
No.
I don't think a treaty has been drawn up or signed or anything like that between the two Koreas. But also, it'd just be a huge economic strain on the South, because the South would then
supporting.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be kind of like a welfare state where the South would have to send money to the North, and there'd be more, and there'd be like maybe even new taxes on the people of South Korea, which would then create resentment and bitterness between
Right.
between the two Koreas. But I mean, in terms of like kind of like a feel good social thing, I think it's a good thing, because as time keeps going on, the people that it could really mean something to are being lost. And that being like people of my grandparents' generation, and even like my parents' generation. That still has family. That lives in the South, but then they had family that was trapped in the North, and so as time goes on, like there'll be less and less of an emotional incentive to reunify,
Right.
and so. But
and
again,
then you can make the right steps to doing it the right way, and so
right,
it doesn't
exactly.
Doesn't hurt the economic prosperity of the South to get everyone back together.
Right. I mean, precisely. I mean, maybe I'm naive, but then that's also kind of looking at it like as if the North would, completely take over, because I mean, I think in the mind of Kim Jong-un, his idea of reunification is, united Korea under him.
Oh yeah, I mean that's always been the goal from the beginning of the Korean War.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we can't let that happen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, when I heard about this last night, I half expected to hear, or the big story for this morning would have been like of all the news anchors at CNN and NBC, how their heads exploded.
Oh yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Well, it was just the innocuous stuff that they were talking about concerning the summit. It's like that was the more thing that like was surprising to me. I mean, they were wasn't like they were like doing stuff where they're like making fun of like the menu of food or whatever that was there. Or
no, like they were saying they were somewhat fixated on like, oh, Trump wears a dark like almost black suit and red tie. Yeah, okay. And
what does that have to do with anything?
Exactly.
This isn't E-entertainment. This is supposed to be a news channel.
I know, right?
This isn't TMZ where like we care about his fashion.
I know, yeah. Like I remember, I remember like one, I forget who, but like one news network was like commenting on like the color of his suit and his tie. It's like, who cares?
Oh, and then of course you have the wonderful Jim Acosta who had to make it all about himself, trying to like make sure that his dumbass questions got answered, and he's like trying to like interrupt the press conference.
Oh yeah,
that Trump was having.
Jim Acosta, jeez. He's like
Jim Acosta, look at me, or Jim, look at me, Acosta.
Yeah, it's like he like is the personification of mediocre. Like he wants like the attention. He wants to get the attention so that his bosses see that, oh, look at what a go-getter Jim Acosta is. We should give him a show.
Man, that's super kind of you, calling him mediocre. That's to me, that's a control of everyone that's been mediocre.
Because I'm a nice person. Okay, I'm a nice person.
Whereas it's kind of you got these guys. They're still like discussing points in the press conference, and he's interrupting them. It's like, shut the fuck up and listen to like what they're saying, and then ask your dumbass questions.
Yeah.
Come on. It's just
I mean, he always does this, but at the summit, didn't he call out CNN as being fake news?
Yeah, I mean, well, it is. He
does it all the time, but I mean, particularly he did it at this, the summit. I think. Don't hold me to that.
Yeah, but I honestly, like, if I was Trump or any of those people, like, I would not answer any of Jim Acosta's questions just because he's proven himself to be a rude asshole.
True, I know. Jim Acosta is that that kid that always has to answer all the questions in class, and he's like constantly like, oh, me, teacher, me.
But he's answering he's trying to answer questions that nobody asked him, and
that's also true.
Yeah, it's because no one was calling on him to answer questions on the board. It's just like,
yeah, I know.
It just, to me, it shows that he had an agenda that he was trying to get answered. And instead of like waiting for the press conference to end when everyone else can answer their questions, he was trying to be a dick and just push across an agenda. And I'm sure that when he reports later on or writes an article later on, he's just going to put in his own facts at the end.
Yeah, he's like, it's like the president couldn't answer any of my hard hitting questions. It's like, well, you weren't asking any any relevant questions to begin with.
Yeah, it's it's
yeah, like he probably put it like the president, was like couldn't find the answers to my my deep and hard hitting questions.
He's like that person during the movie that constantly asks the person next to them, like, "Hey, what did that guy say? What does that mean?"
He's like, "What did that guy say? What I said? What did the guy say?"
Had he just waited 5 more minutes, he would have had his answer. Instead, he chose to open his mouth and, lost the context.
Right? Yeah, exactly. It's just like, and it's like, what did that guy say? Say, what that guy say when I said what that guy say? You know?
Well, I mean,
and what he say after when I said what he say, and then when I said what did he say? And it's like, just shut your mouth.
But then again, CNN, that's the acronym, context not necessary. So.
I don't know. There's so many new what is it? Meanings for the little acronym of CNN. That,
well, I mean, there was the Clean News Network. There was
the Crime News Network, Clinton News Network.
Yeah, but this is one that I just came up off the top of my head. Context not necessary. So.
And sure you didn't steal from someone else?
If someone has said that already, I apologize, but I did not steal it from you.
For this one, I'll take your word for it. Only because I know that I didn't come up with this. So.
I have been known to do that, where it's like, well, there's something I heard when coming up with doing like sermons and stuff like that. It's like there's three different types of references. First you're referencing someone else, then like someone specific, and then the second time you say it, you reference some guy somewhere said it, and then the third time you say it, it's like, oh yeah, I said it. It becomes your own reference.
Yes, I mean for those of you unaware, Robert has this really interesting what was it? This really interesting behavior where he'll say something thinking that he thought of it, but really, it's something that I said first.
That is sometimes true.
It's mostly true. Let's call it 70-30.
It's more like 60-40.
I think I'm being more than generous by saying 70-30.
I chalk it up to bad memory.
Oh no, it is 70-30 because remember during World Series, I said that what's his face? Justin Turner, yeah. I said that he looked like a Viking leprechaun. And then the very next day, the very next time that the Dodgers were playing, he's like, oh yeah, I don't know. It's like someone said that a friend of mine said that he looked like a Viking leprechaun. I was like, yeah, I'm that friend.
Well, to be honest, we were drinking pretty heavily during that game. So
you were drinking heavily. I wasn't drinking that much. Shoot.
Well, that doesn't matter.
Well, I wasn't drinking to the point where I was blocking out memories.
The rest of us were, Andy.
Don't try to put this on me.
So no, I'm just saying that there's context on that where that's why I couldn't remember who said it because there was a lot of.
But it was almost like the very next day.
Okay, well, I was kind of sort of drunk at that point during.
No. See that's where I call bullshit because I've always said this. Alcohol never makes you act out of character. It only enhances it.
That's the. In this case, no, because it was one of those things where a lot of people were saying stuff, and I just kind of lost track of who was saying what, and so I didn't remember that it was you that said it.
Whatever. Oh, jeez. Yeah, boy. That's why. Yeah, I never buy the whole I don't remember because of alcohol. Because even at my most smashed, I still remember.
Don't drink.
Huh?
Then you don't really drink.
You didn't even okay. Even at my most smashed, I still remember everything. And I'm talking about like that night, that we first met, and I was basically, necking your toilet the whole night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still remember everything.
Okay, well then you're a special person because I don't remember everything when I get like completely.
Yeah.
Crushed.
Here's the thing. The only time I don't remember anything when I'm drinking is when I'm blackout drunk.
Well, usually like when I drink it, because there's like when I'm drinking like normally, like just not going too crazy. Yeah, of course I remember everything. But then there's times where like I'm just like, oof, it's kind of missing memories. That's.
Nah, I see. Again, I don't buy that. Because it's just like that med chick in Florida where she like had a tantrum because like an Uber came, but it wasn't her Uber, and she was like saying, "No, it's my Uber," and then she like totally fucks up this guy's car. This guy's car, who's just driving Uber, and she was like saying like, "Oh, the alcohol, I was drinking a lot." It's like bullshit. Alcohol does not, again, it doesn't make you do anything outside of your character. It enhances it.
I'll just say that I didn't fuck up your car, Andy. I misremember who was saying what that evening. So once again, it does enhance like my. It does kind of play into that I have a poor memory sometimes.
Yeah. Fine. All right. I'll take your word for it.
Anyone who's seen has seen Up by Up Down will know that I have a poor memory when it comes to to gaming. Where am I supposed to go again? Oh yeah.
But that's about it. But yeah, but that's like about a game that you haven't played in a long time.
But anyways.
I was specifically referencing a time where almost literally 24 hours had passed, and you couldn't remember that it was me that said that Justin Turner looked like a Viking leprechaun.
Well, that's true. I didn't.
I always do things the wrong way. But anyways, all right, let's get into Casablanca.
All right. Well, I had to say that I really enjoyed the film a lot. And actually, I watched it twice this weekend, just to make sure that I got everything. And once again, this is another Humphrey Bogart film.
Yes.
It's our second one in the last 2 weeks. And it stars Humphrey Bogart, Ingrid Bergman,
Peter Lorre.
Yeah, Bergman. Yeah, Peter Lorre's in it, although he's not really like a main star in the film.
Yeah, I mean he was a supporting actor.
Supporting actor
in the last one too,
but he had more screen time in.
True, he was like a little bit more. Well, yeah, he had more screen time. Let's just say that.
Yeah. So, anyways, the story surround was it Humphrey Bogart's character Rick. He is an American expat that lives in Casablanca, which is and this is now set during the beginning of World War II. And Casablanca is part of the unoccupied France. It's still like a French like colony or state or whatever. And
right, in Morocco.
Yeah, in Morocco.
Like on the Atlantic side.
Yeah. And so he runs this bar/casino, which all the pretty much like Casablanca is where all these like refugees kind of congregate as they're trying to flee Europe to America or whatever to get away from the war.
Right. It's like kind of like a buffer zone, or it's like
It's a neutral zone.
What was that?
It's kind of like a neutral zone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a neutral zone. And
something that it kind of reminded me of was what's that movie with Keanu Reeves that he was in where he was crap. I'm blanking on the name. Where he was kind of like damn it. Anyways, like essentially, like he was a former assassin that got kind of dragged back into it.
All right, John Wick.
And John Wick, thank you. And remember that like hotel where it's kind of like that neutral zone for
Continental.
Yeah, that's kind of like what Casablanca, and it kind of reminds me of. It's that like little, it's like that hotel, like where it's everyone's just kind of there's a tense piece that is that's there.
I guess, but although in John Wick, the Continental had very strict rules, where like the guests couldn't kill each other, but not so much in Casablanca.
That's true, yeah.
But I get your point.
So anyways, the story revolves around Rick and kind of like his, he runs this casino bar, and he's there. Peter Lorre's character, Senor Ugarte, it starts off where the police are looking for people who killed some German couriers that stole some, travel visas from them. And it turns out I'm assuming that it was Ugarte that like killed those couriers.
Right.
Yes,
Casablanca not filled with the best people.
No, it's a denizen of thieves and murderers and robbers and stuff. So it's not
it's like Mos Eisley.
Yeah, I think that's a very apt description of it.
Yeah, it's Mos Eisley.
And so essentially, these travel visas, which are like pretty much no one can question them because they come from a certain a certain authority that's like they're not going to get questioned.
Yeah, Louis, the prefect of Casablanca.
Yeah, and so there's people that are the authorities are looking for who murdered them and those visas. Yet, since this entire area is kind of like a black market, everyone's kind of like, I hear there's rumors of these special visas that that you can make a lot of money off of, and that's kind of like where we're at with the film. It's got a little bit of a love story involved, but it's centered around getting these visas to escape Casablanca and off to America to escape the war. That's pretty much the essence of the film. So that's my little summary. Like, was there anything that you wanted to put in there, Andy, concerning like what you thought of the film?
No, not really. But I think. I mean, Casablanca is not a new story by any means, but in terms of movies, a lot of like the tropes, I think Casablanca was one of the forerunners or progenitors of certain movie tropes that we see in later cinema.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, and I think in terms of dialogue too, I think it was really well written, especially the speech that Rick gives at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
where he's like when you're trying to get Ilsa to get on the plane, and he's like, the problem of three people doesn't amount to a hill of beans, and
Yeah.
or like you have to get on that plane because one of these days you're gonna regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not today, tomorrow, but someday. It's just like I
Right.
think we again, it's one of those things where with the benefit of time, or or the detriment of time, we kind of take for granted just how wonderful the writing was in that movie. It might seem hokey, or maybe because again, we because we're talking about old movies, that mid-Atlantic kind of accent where they constantly had to be enunciating their words, so the sound equipment of their day could pick up their voices, but I think the writing was top notch.
A lot of Hungarians in that film too.
Oh yeah, Peter Lorre
the guy who played Victor Laszlo. It was like Paul Reed. He's from Austria-Hungary too.
Yeah, it's your people.
Yeah, it's always nice to find find some Hungarians in the film.
Yeah,
so.
like it was a really hot time for Hungarians in the early 20th century.
I know. There's actually surprisingly a lot more than I realized. It's like, what happened to all these people?
Right. Yeah, but
no, the thing is, like, I didn't really see the language as being hokey. To be honest, yeah, I thought the writing was, really just, it was fantastic. Like, all the dialogue was great. Yeah, like you said, we have all these sayings that we take for granted that have been used in other shows or movies, or just in our regular vernacular that we're taking from Casablanca. We don't really realize that nowadays, since it's almost an 80-year-old film now.
Mm-hmm.
And the something that I like about it is when it comes to the way, when we talked a little bit about this last week, is the way movies were written back then. It wasn't necessarily written as though people would talk in a under normal circumstances. It's better than that. It's it's written in a way that it's better than normal language or normal vernacular. It's supposed to be better than that. And the other thing I found fascinating is I was doing some reading on the film, is that while it was kind of a star-studded cast, and it obviously became a real hit movie, is after they were finished with it, it's like they didn't really expect it to be as big as it was. It was kind of seen as like, oh, it's just another one of, it's just another film of its time, and that it was just kind of, it's going to be, it was kind of be mediocre, and it ended up becoming this great phenomenon that they didn't expect.
Right. Well, I mean, the same thing could be said about Shakespeare. He was just making the equivalent of reality TV. Back in Elizabethan London or England. It was like soap operas. It was reality TV. That was the equivalent that of the plays that he was making. But now we have like this elevated view of it. And we appreciate the artistry and.
Yeah.
And when we over romanticize the language but back in Shakespeare time, it was the equivalent of soap operas.
Yeah, well, and I think the other thing that what made this movie probably so popular, it was it's like you got a little bit of your love story in there, which is that's definitely plays a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it spoke very well to its time, and obviously we didn't live through World War II, but
Mm-hmm.
that was such a unifying time for a lot of people. And I think just the setting that movie is surrounded in is people are trying to escape from this horrible this horrific war and like all the
But also,
some of the people that are involved in it.
but also the despotic and totalitarian governments that were springing up.
Right, and here's where I think it's definitely different from our time today. Is where you definitely feel the actors portrayed the passion and nationalism that they had for their countries that were being essentially forced out by the Nazis and or the Italians and the Japanese and the Axis powers, where well, and obviously this mainly was Germany against the rest of Europe is what this film was focused on.
Mm-hmm.
Is you felt there was a scene where in Rick's bar, the German officers that were coming into Casablanca, they were essentially taking over that bar and having the band play German nationalistic songs for the Nazi party.
Right, or German,
and,
or just like folk songs.
Yeah, whereas you have a bunch of people from these other European countries who you just see how much they despise that. And the guy Victor Laszlo, one of the characters, he's like, no, play this this French patriotic song,
Mm-hmm.
and it's you have the whole bar just pretty much take over, and it's like they kind of out sing and out shout the
I mean,
the German song.
yeah, really. It just emphasized that the Germans were surrounded. They were outnumbered in this place, and yeah, they kind of got they kind of got shown up by the locals.
Yeah, and I saw that as that's one thing you probably wouldn't see in a movie today, because I don't think that there's anyone that feels that passionate about liberty and the freedom that or has that love for their country quite anymore.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because I remember I just recently I saw while I was on YouTube, I saw a trailer for this new film about Neil Armstrong and the and the space race and all that, but it was different, and it was different from what was it, The Right Stuff. Where it was telling the story of the first astronauts and the first uh, you know the beginning years of the space program. But it was lifting them up, as heroes, as these men, these exceptional men who were chosen to represent the country, and to represent the best that America had. Um, but in this new movie, it's a bit of a darker tone. Um, it's no more is do they emphasize the optimism or the can-do attitude of the participants of the space program, but it was much more darker, and and focus on the dangers and the hazards, and it just didn't feel right to me, because here the space program is a colossal feat of ingenuity and tenacity, I think. Uh, because we put men into space. We put a few men on the moon, and I don't know. I think I'll have to send you a link to the preview, but yeah, it just didn't seem right to me.
I'll have to take a look at that.
Because it was like it made the government look like they were like being shady or not being forthright, and maybe they weren't. It just some, but to like this to the level at which like this preview for this movie is making them out to be, just it seems wrong.
Well, I also wonder too if there's if maybe that's playing a little bit to the uh, conspiracy theory that like we faked the footage of the moon landing, where it's like we actually went there, but for whatever reason, like the way that film was taken at the time, that it like the radiation in space like destroyed the film, and so we kind of had to fake the footage, and it was more of a way to rally Americans towards because it was it's definitely the heart of the Cold War at that time too.
Right.
We wanted to beat the Russians to the moon.
Yeah, because they already had put a satellite and also put a man in space. So we were definitely in those terms. Yeah, we were behind in the space race.
Right, but it's just because I know like my grandfather was a engineer at the time, and he worked on some of the like test satellites that they put into space before they launched the missions into space that land on the moon.
Oh, really?
It was just a way to it was a way to test like like the amount of like radiation and what was actually in space, to kind of see like what they had to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was kind of like it was kind of cool to. So it's like people went on the moon, and it's just it's kind of, it seems like they're kind of going more towards the conspiracy theory route, and like how it's like, oh, we had to fake this stuff to to kind of prove that we beat the Russians or whatever.
Hey, I don't know if you seen it, but have you seen that clip of Buzz Aldrin decking this guy who claimed that
he should have?
Yeah, he was like saying, you didn't go to the moon, you didn't walk on the moon, and then like Buzz Aldrin just like straight up like decks him, and he was like, I think he was a little bit, he wasn't as old as he is now, but I mean he was still old, but he like still like dropped that guy.
As he should have.
Yeah, and like, I think just that reaction alone, you can take that to the bank. It's like, yeah, that guy walked on the moon, because he's of a different generation.
And you're not gonna like deck some guy for like that for nothing.
Yeah, like if you're, because again, it's a difference in a generational difference. Just how we were raised, and here's this guy, this little pencil neck soy boy who's like calling out Buzz Aldrin, like it's like, you didn't go to the moon, you're a fraud, and da da da, and it's like, and at first, he was, Buzz Aldrin was restraining himself. He's like, no, just like keep walking. He's like trying to walk into this building, and then and then finally he gets, he just like, he just kept hounding him, and he had enough, and so he decked him. And it's just like one of those, it was one of those generational things where you just, your honor was worth defending. And and your word as your word as a man, or your word as a person, really meant something, and like your reputation was something to be kept, uh, above reproach.
Absolutely.
And I think we've lost we lost some of that. In my opinion.
Yeah, but that's definitely like kind of this very pro liberty, pro kind of seeking out freedom, and looking for, striving for something better is just something that like I felt was at the heart of kind of like Casablanca.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there were a lot of libertarian kind of messages in it. Like, because Rick, how he'd always say like, "Oh, I don't stick my neck out for anybody."
Yeah.
And like, I won't condone anyone, but I won't help them either.
Exactly. He was, kind of this whole idea is like, oh, Rick, he's completely neutral. Like, he has no skin in the game, kind of thing. But he did.
Yeah, I mean, later on, he kind of demonstrates like his virtue with that couple, who was trying to get a visa, and what was the prefect's name again? Louis,
Yeah, Louis. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the.
And he even self-described him as a corrupt politician, and he was definitely gonna Weinstein this poor woman into.
Oh yeah, he was looking to fuck her. That's
yeah. Like, yeah, Louis. I mean, if Louis was brought to the 21st century, he definitely be a Weinstein.
Yeah, he would have. Yeah.
But I mean,
definitely not a Me Too film.
What was that?
This is definitely not a pound Me Too film.
Yeah, this is definitely a Me Too film. But yeah, Rick demonstrates that he does, he is a virtuous person. By helping this woman's husband get money so that they could pay the fee to get the visa to get out of there, and thus protecting that woman's virtue, and and thus demonstrating Rick's virtue, even though like he comes off as this person where he's like this kind of cold, kind of cynical person. But even Louis kind of calls him on it, and gets his number and gets his number right when he was like, "Oh, well, you're really a sentimentalist at heart."
Well, and you kind of like, we see a little bit of his past of why he is probably like that, in that we don't know too much about like his past before he meets Ilsa.
Mm-hmm.
But like we can assume that he was for some reason he may have been a spy for the Americans. He may have done a lot for as maybe like a kind of like a black market dealer or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's kind of, seems like he's kind of on the run in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But then like he meets someone that he genuinely like deeply cares about, and like he's the kind of guy that's like, I don't stick out my neck for anybody, yet he found someone that he was willing to get captured by the Nazis over, and it's like, yeah, whatever, we'll do it together. And when she ultimately ends up leaving him for reasons he didn't know at the time, it's like he felt like he had compromised who he was as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, I can't do that for anyone else anymore. Like I'm just gonna look out for good old number one.
Right.
Yet at the same time, he did have. I mean, he looked out for like Sam and the piano player, and a lot
and
of
like
other
all
people.
of his employees and.
And when he created this kind of this den of thieves, and he kind of provided this cocoon of protection, yet at the same time he's like, it's a completely neutral place, so if you get yourself in trouble, that's on you. I'm not going to stick out my neck for you, but this is a place where you can be safe for a short time. It's kind of he did have this kind of sentimental feel and stuff like that, but I had to say that, like, was it one of my favorite scenes from the film was after the display of they were singing the song Les Marseillais, where the whole and Major Strasser, the Nazi officer, who was like, he ordered Louis to shut the place down, and it's like, under what grounds? It's like, there's gambling in this place, and it's like, I'm shocked that there's gambling going on in this establishment. Here you're winning, sir. Oh, thank you. It was a great line.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. I mean, like, we joke that the prefect Louis was like the Weinstein, but he was still a good guy.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of people that he kind of, because I think he's a guy that knew Rick pretty deeply. Like, he kind of understood the type of person he was, and I think in a sense he didn't outright say like, "Oh, Rick will help you," but he pushed people in Rick's direction that he knew that Rick would help.
Right. Yeah, because he had like that insight into Rick's inherent character, and
and I think that part of it is like Louis in a sense kind of cared as well, and so he kind of the same thing where he's a corrupt guy, like he's not your outright good guy. But at the same time, like, he also doesn't want people to get hurt or suffer. It's just kind of like Rick. Him and Rick are kind of like are a good duo, because they're kind of this both like I'm neutral, but like, and I have a role to play, but at the same time, like, I don't want people to outright suffer, and so you kind of like they work together in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was, the way that it was, summed up at the end, where it's like, Louis, this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship, where it's like, now it's, they're stuck together now, and they're like, they're both fleeing, and yet they're also kind of the same guy.
Right. Yeah.
So Casablanca, I had to say 2 thumbs up. I actually, the American Film Institute's like list of like the best movies of all time. A lot of those lists contain Citizen Kane as being the best movie of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that this is the best movie of all time, from what I've seen from that list so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll have to rewatch Citizen Kane.
So I definitely recommend it if you're looking for a good movie. It's got a lot of great actors in it, a lot of great dialogue, good story. It's got it all, and it's relatively short too. So you're not going to be like,
it's not like
it's just over an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's not like the summer blockbusters of today where they can run to almost like 3 hours long.
Yeah.
So you probably won't need a bathroom break, is what we're trying to say.
Yeah, you know what? That's pretty true. I didn't have to take a bathroom break when I was watching it, so.
There it is. All right. Um. All right. We did our okay. All right. Time to top this sandwich off with a little bit of a mood killer, but
Yeah. Not necessarily how I would never usually want to end things, but well, here we go.
yeah, we'll do our best to crack a few jokes. Yes, but or and for those of you who are unaware, but the celebrity chef Anthony Bourdain, uh, host of his own show on CNN called Parts Unknown, committed suicide last week, leaving
Yep.
behind 11-year-old daughter, I believe.
Yep.
A couple of ex-wives and a girlfriend.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll admit when I found out about this, it upset me. Because I can say that that I was a fan of Anthony Bourdain, and even if he said some jackassy things, he entertained me more than he annoyed me. So
His show was pretty darn good. Like, I didn't feel
yeah,
like it was in his personal life. Yeah, he did say some pretty like jackassy things, but his show was very entertaining, and it was kind of cool to learn about like different cuisine that I was like, oh, I didn't know that existed. That looks really good. I want to try that. Or if I end up doing some travel somewhere, like it's like, oh, I'll look for this.
right. Although I do take onus because I do take onus of his what is it? His Houston episode of the show. He gets there's people praise that episode as being like one of his best. But in an interview, uh, he reveals that for that episode, one of his edicts was no white people.
Wow.
Yeah. So when when they were deciding on where to go to have food in Houston, he's like, no white people. And it's like, okay, but you are contradicting yourself by calling for diversity, yet willingly and purposefully excluding a people group.
True. And it's like, well, if no white people, then like, why are you in the show?
Yeah, and it's like, and it's it was, and in all fairness, white people were the ones who created Texas.
True.
In all fairness, I mean, I'm not saying that there weren't Mexicans or blacks or whatever, but majority of the first Texans, because Texas was its own country for a very short while, but they were predominantly white.
Yep.
And so, how can on one hand say I want diversity, but on the other, or say how can in one breath call for diversity, but then in the same breath exclude a people's group.
An entire group of people. That's
yeah.
That to me is kind of, I didn't know that was the case, but yeah, that's pretty that kind of contradicts the whole point of like diversity.
Right, I know. And then because that's all people on the left cry about, diversity and inclusion, or
But then they're also like, but no whites and fuck the Jews, pretty much. That's kind of like what it ends
or
up
at Google, no whites or Asians.
Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, because like I mean, if you heard like a memo went out at Google where there's like, okay, we need more diversity, but no hiring white males or white and Asian males engineers. When like the entirety of computer science is made up of those very two people or people's group.
Yeah, that seems a little odd.
So yeah, it's funny because I mean I know we're supposed to be talking about Anthony Bourdain, but to just touch upon this quickly, I was actually thinking about uh, this notion of diversity, and
Right.
um, and and the particular thing I was thinking about was like the whole debate about trans trans servicemen,
Right.
right? And there when President Trump made the proclamation that trans people would not be allowed to serve in the military,
Hmm.
and all these people came out saying uh, oh, how can you do something like so heartless, and serving is a right, and and it's just like, whoa, how is serving a right? Like, how is it a right to serve in the military? That's completely voluntary, and it's a privilege to serve in the military. It's not like the right to say whatever you want, or you know or
Right.
your right to a trial by jury of your peers. It's not the same. It's serving in the military is a privilege, and it's
Especially
a
because
duty, and it's a duty, that
yeah.
about 50% of the population doesn't have to uh, ever worry about being pressed into in times of war. And so it's like, so you can't, so it's not all right. And then I thought about it a little bit more, and what if, because as a young man, I entertained notions of serving, um, even with this, I still had desire to serve. Partly because my family has a tradition of service. My dad was a Marine in Korea, and my some of my cousins served. Well, like a bunch of my cousins served. One in the Navy, one in the Air Force, and more recently, a cousin or two cousins that joined the Army, and another one that joined the Coast Guard. And so there's a tradition of service in my family, and I was thinking about it, and what if I was a little bit younger, or a lot younger than I am right now, and I wanted to serve. And I went to a recruiter, and they told me that I probably wouldn't have been able to meet the physical requirements. And then I started, and then I decided to stir up a shitstorm. You know, because by that logic, by the logic of like the activists, that the military should allow me to serve, because
Yeah.
by their logic, or by their reasoning, serving in the military is a right, and that right extends to me, and so I should also be able to serve, whether I am a detriment to my unit or not.
Yeah. That's
And
doesn't
so,
work like that.
yeah, it doesn't work that way. Like, I can go and like holler and hoot like and like demand like they allow me to serve, and like they make really unreasonable accommodations for me. Like I say, like, oh, you have to build, you have to make me a gun that I could operate in the field, and da da da. Those are unrealistic expectations or unrealistic demands to be made. Just so that I might be, so I could feel like some sort of inclusivity. I don't know if that works.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. It never does.
Because it's life and death when it comes to that.
Exactly. Because I mean, even if I've been able to learn to do a lot of things on my own. Tie my shoes, clothe myself, brush my teeth, brush my hair, drive a car, use a camera, use a computer, uh, you know, uh, French and julienne potatoes. I've learned to do a lot of things, but even I know that there are certain things that I cannot do on my own, and I would need a very elaborate accommodation.
True.
To accomplish certain things, especially serving, especially handling a firearm, and so the idea that inclusivity is a net good is rather absurd to me. And I hope people start reevaluating this idea that they have in their heads for inclusion.
I definitely agree with you, Andy.
Word. Now, I know I completely went off the topic, but
yeah.
I just kind of have to say, I just have to kind of get that out there. It's just, because it's the same thing with like the whole idea of discrimination. It's like not all discrimination is bad.
Yeah, well, that's what it was. Thomas Sowell talks about that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like if like you said, like, oh, I'm hungry. I would really love a hamburger, and I was like, and then I gave you a smartphone. It's like, here, eat this. It's like, are you gonna eat the smartphone?
No.
It's like, no, you're discriminating against the smartphone for not being a hamburger.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone would say that was a bad thing.
No, I don't think so.
It's actually funny because I was thinking about this, and I think in the Bible it kind of gives an example of a kind of positive discrimination or discernment. Because the word. I think he's more talking about. I think Jesus is talking about more about good and evil, but he makes the comparisons like, oh. If you as a father, your child asks for some bread, you give him a stone.
Right, and it's like, what kind of person would do that?
Exactly. But I mean, so I don't know. I'm trying to do my best. But, yeah, we kind of got distracted on this topic.
We
Anthony
definitely
Bourdain.
went down the rabbit trail.
What was that?
We went down we went down your rabbit trail, Andy.
I know, we totally did, and we totally got lost on the way.
Yeah. So speaking of Anthony Bourdain,
Yeah. So speaking of suicide, yeah, real sad. But yeah, it's really sad. I was really sad to hear about it, but I mean, Robert, you had, or actually a bunch of us had, strong feelings, slightly in the other direction.
yeah, it's when it comes to this topic, because in one sense I want to be careful because it is kind of one of those topics that can really people have been affected by or have been hurt by. So I mean, there is that. So I don't necessarily want to be completely insensitive, but I also see where suicide becomes it creates such a black hole in the people that it doesn't matter if you're a celebrity or not. Like for the people that are closest with you, and when you start and in this case, he left behind people who were needing him, like his daughter, or at least I think he had a daughter. I don't know if it was a son or daughter.
It was a daughter, 11 years old, I believe.
Yeah, it's like you're leaving behind someone that desperately needs you in their life,
mm-hmm.
and I say this from experience because my uncle killed himself, about 30 years ago, and
mm-hmm.
it's one of those like topics where no one in my family talks about it, yet you can still, to this day, they still feel the effects of that suicide. It left a huge vacuum that that everyone else is kind of like we're left having to clean up, that they're having to like clean up, and because I've been kind of curious, like I don't think because I've asked my mom, so what was the reason? Did he give a reason? Like, what did he do exactly? And it's like she doesn't know exactly what the reasoning behind it was. And it's like, and she wouldn't really tell me like how he did it or like what exactly. I think there's a lot more that she's not letting on about, and that's pretty much how all my whole family on my mom's side has acted. Mm-hmm. And and that's what suicide does. Now you kind of like in it's kind of selfish in a sense where you're going through a lot of pain, you're going through all these issues, but instead of working to deal with it and looking towards your family or the people that care about you the most, instead of going to them and working on things, it's like, no, I'm just gonna end it, and you're in a way you're only caring about yourself and not realizing that it has dire consequences on the people that are left behind. So in that sense, that's where I think the problem for why I think it's a terrible option and why this issue should be talked about more, not necessarily to glorify it and make it seem like, oh, he's at peace now or he's this or that. It's like, no, there's people that are left behind that have to deal with this shit now.
Mm-hmm.
That and kind of like how like a disease, it could affect the people that are left behind. It's like, well, now they're left with like almost another type of pain that they had to deal with that maybe they can't deal with, and they end up making the same selfish decision again, and it creates this cycle that might not end, and that's the thing that bothers me the most, just because, man, like you said, to me, it's an action that only cares about the self, and obviously, like, they're dead now, so they don't have to deal with the ramifications or the after effects.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's kind of what it is. And I know some people have like looked at, they've kind of talked about like we have to work at not glorifying suicide, and I completely agree. And I think a few people have pointed out to like to a show that you hate so much in 13
Oh yes.
Reasons
Why. Oh yes.
But see, I disagree. I don't see it as a glorification of suicide, because I saw the show, especially in season 2. The main character in that show, it says like, you did all this horrible thing, and now we're all left dealing with the horrific consequences of it. And that to me is the essence of what suicide does. Is, yeah, sure, maybe you're not having to deal with issues anymore, but you fucked up everyone else's life in the process. So thanks. Thanks for leaving us. I mean, instead of working with us to deal with stuff in while you're alive, and like having the people that care about you the most help you, you've decided to not only take your own life but fuck up everyone else's life around you that cared.
Well, yeah. If I'm to the one who commits suicide, I think in their minds, all they're doing is dropping a pebble into the pond. But what they don't understand is that the ripples that they create in that pond soon become a tsunami.
Exactly that, and I don't want to deride anyone that is going through tough life issues, and they're having these crisis of the mind and like mental health, like that to me is not like a weakness. That's just like that's just a problem that some people have to deal with. And if you're dealing with those things, know that don't let suicide be like the answer to that, because whether you realize it or not, there's people that are around that care a great deal and are going to be insanely hurt by doing that. Some will reflect in anger, some will become depressed themselves, and you're essentially passing on. Why would you? To me, it's like, don't pass on the hurt that you're dealing with onto others, because that to me is what happens when.
Right. I mean, yes, you're essentially passing on the virus of depression. In your act of what you imagine to be self-preservation is actually self-preservation or self-interest is actually a selfish and contaminating one.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too that gets mixed up in all this as well is that there's an over medication for, like, I think antidepressants and all that, but there's a difference between like, like this situation I'm in kind of sucks, and like you feel sad in the moment. That's not depression. That's not mental health issues. That's life. But what, to me, mental health is, people who have like their brain chemistry is fucked up, and like they can't, you get like people who are bipolar or schizophrenic or all that. That's stuff that like should be, treated with like medication to get the brain chemistry back into back in order. But if you're like feeling like, oh, hey, like I went through a period where, my girlfriend left, or like my wife left, or you go through like a death in the family from either like an illness or whatever, or I lost, most of my money. Like those are moments that will pass. Like, you're sad. That's not depression. And those are moments where where in life you have to grind it out. And yeah, you're not going to be happy like with the snap of the fingers. It takes time to, and you will. It's not saying that you won't have a scar or that you don't care about that situation. You just have to grind it out. You have to tough it out, and over time things will return to better. And I think while we're seeing such a rise in there's several reasons, but one of the reasons why I think there's a rise in this epidemic of suicide is that we've become a generation of instant gratification, and so when things get tough, people don't tough it out. They're just like, well, I guess this is it, and they end up either taking out other people or they take themselves out.
Well, I don't think it's just instant gratification. I think it's contributory. Don't get me wrong, it's contributory. But I also think
that's the sole factor. I'm just saying that's one factor out of many factors.
Right. I'm agreeing with you, but I would also like to add on as another reason for all this suicide is purposelessness, if that's even a word.
It is now.
It is now. So say we all. Yes, if you are a Battlestar fan, you totally get that reference. But yeah, purposelessness. Yeah, or a hollow meaning, because we kind of dilute ourselves into thinking like, let's live for the moment, or this is the one life you get, so make it a good one, but those are just empty words, platitudes. Your life is what you make of it. It's the meaning that you either it's the meaning that you put into it, or the standard by which you hold your life to. And like you were saying, like, it's the grind, and it's the grind of making your life great. It's the grind of making your life matter.
Yeah.
And I think nowadays we don't want to put in the work. Like if a kid acts up, it's like, oh, they just prescribe him some pills because they think that he's just he has ADHD or whatever, and no one wants to put in the time to sort things out for them. Sort things out for themselves. And that doesn't mean like they have to do it on their own. They could go and seek help and, get the help to sort things out for themselves.
Yeah.
But, it's like you said, it's, they're looking for this instant gratification, but it's also, I think, stemmed from like a loss of purpose. That's a way better way of saying it. I would say it like that. A loss of purpose, for their lives.
Yeah, it's just, it's one of those things where, things get tough for everyone. Like, no matter like how great your life is, or everyone goes through tough times. And sure, some people might be able to ride the wave a little bit easier than others. And like I said, everyone's situation is different. But like the answer isn't, taking your life, taking yourself out, but you become like when you get through those storms, you become something greater, and your life changes I think for the better in a lot of cases. Like, sure, things that you may have enjoyed in the past might not apply anymore, and they might put you back into that storm. But if you've done it right, you've come through the storm, and your life is going to be better. And I might be, obviously I believe that, being a Christian is a good thing. Like if you really believe in, the tenets of Christianity. So I obviously I'm a little bit biased in that sense, but I think even just having some sort of, purpose and and some sort of belief system, that carries you through those tough times, go for it. It's like have something to look towards. Because if you're constantly just looking to the self, you're gonna be let down every time. Because we're not. To me, humanity is not the best great thing. Like we're flawed creatures that make a lot of mistakes, and if we're constantly relying on ourselves for glory and joy, we're gonna fall short of that too.
Well, I just learned this interesting statistic, but because everyone says oh, life now is so much harder. We have all these society, social pressures and and cultural pressures and it's just our lives are just so much. So it's understandable why someone would take their life. This very interesting statistic that I learned recently says that less people in Auschwitz committed suicide than they did today.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, in freaking Auschwitz, the most stressful, the most hopeless situation you could be in, there were less suicides. I think there was a tenth the suicides in Auschwitz than there are today.
Good God.
Yeah. Now, again, I don't have the exact statistic, and don't hold me to that 1/10 thing, but yeah, it was a very small amount. People in Auschwitz were killing themselves less than they are today.
That's and they lived under definitely a lot more dire consequences than what we're going through today in the U.S.
Right? I mean, yeah, they were living under the boot of literal Nazis, as opposed to people today who only think that they're living under the boots of Nazis.
Yeah. It's a rough time, man. I know like I said, I'm not making fun of people who have real issues and stuff like that.
No, of course not. No one on this podcast disavow. No one is making fun or taking lightly the issue of suicide.
Yeah, and the thing is, I feel really awful for I guess it was Kate Spade, who I don't really know too much about, but the families that they leave behind, I feel so awful for them because there's so much. There's all this, nuclear waste they have to clean up through now and, try to get over that they've been left with. And I think we don't talk about that enough. Same thing with Robin Williams. He left behind a ton of people that, from his family that loved him. And now, they have to, for the rest of their lives, they have to deal with that nuclear waste that is suicide. And I feel really terrible for the families involved. And if you have issues, go and get help. There's so much. There's so many things that are out there. If you don't have family, there's a lot of people that are in different programs and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there are tons of resources now. I mean, everyone says the stigma of mental health or whatever. I think now we're living in a culture and a society that is more sensitive to mental health than there ever has been in the history of mankind. I don't necessarily believe in this whole mental health stigma, because now like there are freaking apps to help with mental health, for
Yeah.
like a very rudimentary diagnosis or whatever, or or putting or like an app that that connects you to a crisis hotline. The whole I think the idea that that there's still a stigma attached to mental illness is kind of an absurd one, especially nowadays.
Right. And the other thing is I still believe in the power of family. Like if you have,
Oh
or
yeah,
even
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
family
yeah.
and friends, uh, the people that are around you, you might not realize it, but they care about you. Like they need
Right.
you around.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, because like who's gonna care about you? The government's not gonna care about you. You can't go to like a government like wellness center and be like, I feel kind of crummy today. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
here, like it'll just like here's 2 Xanax, next. They're not gonna,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to I don't mean to demean or disparage, people like social workers or things like that, or make them seem as like that callous. But I'm more talking about the idea that government cares about you. Government doesn't give two shits about you. The only time they care about you is, if you don't pay your taxes.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. That's pretty much like the only example when they actually care about you, if you're not paying your taxes. And
But the thing is, like, talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to someone, and get the help that you need. Don't leave the people that love you the most with just this nuclear fallout of you taking your own life. It's not worth it.
right, and I mean,
You have something to offer.
and also, um, does your family still question why your uncle killed himself?
Oh, I guarantee that they do. I mean, it's not. It's kind of one of those, taboo talking points. Like, it's kind of like why I kind of just left it alone. But
Mhm.
I guarantee that there's.
I mean, did he leave a note
a
though?
lot of questions. Huh?
Did he leave a note?
Yeah, I think he did.
Okay, but even though he left a note and like explained exactly why he
But
killed himself.
only a few people really know. Like, there's only a few people that read that note, and they're not really talking about like what was on it.
Right, but I bet they're still not satisfied with the note.
No.
No, of course not. So I mean, so that's the the vanity and arrogance of leaving a note. Thinking that will that'll explain everything, and they'll see 100% from your perspective, and like they'll say, "Yep, yeah, I would have killed myself too." That's ridiculous, and that's I think the worst thing that you can do to a loved one is leave them with all with uncertainty and with doubt. It's like you can leave a warm piece, like thick suicide note explaining exactly why you killed yourself, and it still wouldn't be enough.
Yeah.
Because I mean, to kick it back to 13 Reasons Why, the main character left a pretty detailed account of why she killed herself. And yet,
like,
in this, and like in some of the promotion, like promo stuff that I saw for this new season, the parents don't seem to be. Well, at least answer me this: did the parents know about the tapes by season 2?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, and presumably they've heard them, right?
Yeah, in season 2, it definitely became more like publicized because there's a court case involved, like of. Yeah.
Right. So even though they know exactly why the daughter killed herself, they're not satisfied.
there's still like, you know, and this is where I felt like it dealt with it in a very realistic way, is it left all these people with so many more questions, like what the hell happened, like what's, you know, what was the point of this? And like I said, it left this entire, you know, this entire town with like kind of in this like nuclear fallout just from this one girl killing herself, and that's to me what it does.
Well, exactly. Yeah, it just leaves more questions. It doesn't matter like that she left these, you know, these recordings describing in detail exactly why she killed herself. It's just, you know, no one said like, "Yep, that told me." Okay, I understand. It's like, yeah, I understand why you killed yourself. Yeah, I would have killed myself too. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. You know, because that it just fills them with doubt. It's like, oh, maybe, you know, maybe they're just saying that to make me feel better. Maybe I really did do something to them to push them over the edge, or da da da. It just leaves them with all this doubt, and that's, you know, and I think that's what's most evil and most selfish about suicide.
It's one of the, and you know, the thing is okay, like in the case of that show where, you know, she left this entire like detailed description of like what, you know, the factors of why she killed herself. It's like, well, what the hell is everyone else supposed to do with that? Like,
right?
It's like, oh, thanks. Like I was part of like why you killed yourself. It's like, I mean, what's supposed to change now? Like, there's nothing that can change because you're dead. You know, it's
yeah. There's no opportunities to repent, to not repent, but, you know, reconcile or make recompense for the actions done to her. You know, there's I mean, for those of you who didn't watch, a little bit of a spoiler, but, you know, one of the reasons she kills herself is because she gets raped, and so, you know, there's no justice for the rape. Not really.
Oh yeah. Oh, like I said, when we do our episode on that, like I have a lot to say on that whole issue too, because this the you know, the it's my story, it's my truth thing, like that's where
yeah.
I draw the line.
That's utter garbage. I hate that. I hate that. It's funny because I watched, you know, Crowder just dropped another Change My Mind. You know, this one about two genders. There only being two genders, and like this trans woman, really meaning a dude, comes to sit down and talks about, it's like, oh, this is my truth, this is my experience. It's like, well, or basically, yeah, it's like, this is my truth. It's like, well, and then he asks a very, you know, he asked a very simple and honest question. It's like, well, what's the truth?
Yeah.
And of course, they couldn't, she, I don't know, couldn't answer.
It. Yeah.
You know,
I'm pushing for hate comments.
Yeah, they couldn't answer.
Yeah, because that's what I say. I think we're on that edge of that of the postmodern movement that we're realizing isn't going to work. So hopefully that'll come to an end in our time.
Yeah. Yeah, because you know, it's funny because there's a show I watch, Billions, and I think I told you.
Is that good?
I like it. Although in the second season they brought on this I don't know, not transgender, but maybe non-binary, non-conforming character, and I think I said she. Whatever, fuck. And she identifies as like non-binary. You know, she dresses, you know, androgynous, shaved head, doesn't play up the feminine features at all. And in the show, she said that her pronouns were they them.
Good lord.
And then, and they never. Like, the other characters never really talk about her until, like, this latest season, where she becomes more of prominent to the story. But when they're talking about her, they used the they them pronouns, and it was confusing as shit.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, because they were talking about the character, and the character's name is Taylor. He's like, yeah, Taylor, they are a great worker. They perform great. He's like, I think they should get everything, they want.
Whoa, man, that's I don't know.
Right?
That's
It's so confusing because you don't know if you're talking about a singular person or a group of people.
That's why pronouns exist.
Right? But yes, God damn.
That's a whole another topic for another time. I do have a lot to say about that, but that'll come in a later episode.
Yeah, and we keep getting into rabbit holes, or we keep going down rabbit paths. And
that's definitely for tonight.
That's partly my fault. I own up to it, but
it's been one of those weeks, man. There's a lot going on, and it's just there's a lot of important stuff going on, and I think a lot of times where certain things like connect, like ideas connect, and it just the way life is right now. We're in one giant rabbit hole in life, to be honest.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get us wrong. We're not about disrespect or or being dicks. Out of malice. We're mostly dicks out of love, or at least I am. I'm a dick out of love. And anyone that has spent any significant amount of time with me knows this.
That's true.
But we're also seekers of truth. And it's not just your truth or their truth, the truth. And you can only get to the truth, on a clear path. And when you start demanding, people, figuratively, walk, in a certain way, or I mean, not walk, talk in a certain way, then the truth gets obstructed, and then it gets obfuscated. And then there's no clear, straightforward path to truth.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite race car drivers, Darrell Waltrip. Yeah, he says there's always three sides to every story. There's your side, my side, and then truth. and I think that's very apt with nowadays is everyone's telling their version of the story, but they don't want to see the actual truth.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that, like I said, that idea of this is my story, this is my truth, but that doesn't that tells your perspective of things,
or what make you right or accurate.
Yeah. And that's kind of like where we're at now.
Yeah, because I mean, because what if I all of a sudden decided that I was some new species, because of my deformity, and I decided that I would create I would use different pronouns, and I would do just because I was a little bit different, and that
right.
And that's what they're really doing is they're taking the exception, the outlier, the 1 in a million to apply to everything and everybody. Like in like that change my mind thing. there was a woman who was born a hermaphrodite.
Ugh. Oh boy.
She wasn't bad. She wasn't too bad. I mean, she was dumb as a bag of hammers. But if she didn't speak, and I saw her, and I saw her on the street, I would think that's a cute girl. But and then she revealed that her parents, you know, decided to assign her to be female. But again, Steven Crowder asked the questions like, well, like what was your phenotype? It's like, yeah, it's like, yes, you had like internal testes, but did you present more as male or female? And it's like, obviously she presented more as female, so so that's the way that the doctors went.
Yeah.
And so they always want to take the exception and make it the norm.
It's almost like we're taking like the 0.1% and making that the majority.
Exactly. So because of my disability, I then start to petition and start protesting, and making everyone resemble me, resemble my hands. How ridiculous would that be?
Pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. Or I made the entirety of the world conform to my reality. So everything had to be designed with my hands in mind and my hands only.
Yeah, it'd be that's kind of what's happening.
Yeah, I mean that's how absurd it's become. I could have easily started to complain and say like, oh, well, you have to be more handicap access friendly or whatever, and and demanded that companies make products with me in mind. So I had go to Canon and make them make a camera so that I can hold it with one hand, or I go to Bic and tell them that they have to design a pen with my hands in mind.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. How ridiculous is that? Just to accommodate me. No one else, just me. How absurd and arrogant is that?
It's the worst type of discrimination. The type that's against me.
Yeah.
We're living in a world full of
Or that's the only That's the only. That's the only favoritism I allow. The kind that's for me.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, we live in some really interesting and messed up times.
Yeah. Anyways, what's on the horizon this week for you, Andy?
What is it? I don't even know. I don't. To quote Casablanca, I don't plan that far ahead in advance.
Yeah, that's true. I never think that far ahead. Well, I know, was it Father's Day is this weekend, right? You're not.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure if we're going to be doing anything for Father's Day. I'm pretty sure we're not gonna go out to eat because we've had some bad experiences with restaurants and my dad. So
yeah,
probably not gonna go and to a restaurant. Probably just do something at home, if anything.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm gonna do too. Probably gonna do some grilled steaks.
Oh,
and,
nice. Ribeyes?
I might. I might go go-karting with my dad this weekend too. I'm not sure yet.
Where at?
Either like was it like K1 or MB2, like one of those places.
Oh, is that that one on top of when you go all the way up Balboa?
I think that like there's one kind of like in like the Silmar area, and then there's also one like in on the going towards the 101 or going 101 north. So like Thousand Oaks or something like that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, because I thought you were talking about the one up like Newhall.
Oh no,
Next
I'm
to
not,
the 5.
I don't know if that's the exact street or whatever, but one of those. I'll probably be going to one of those.
What kind of steaks are you thinking about making?
Probably T-bones.
Nice. Wait, what? Wait, the T-bone is what cuts again? The fillet and.
I think it's fillet and I forget the other one.
Yeah.
I want to say it's like sirloin and fillet, but I don't. I'd have to look at like how. I need to look at like a cow and like look at where like the different cuts come from.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I could talk my family into doing steaks also. I actually want to try to do a reverse sear.
Oh, that'd be fancy.
Yeah. Real fancy like. Because for some reason I thought I couldn't set my oven lower than 350, but today I was like, my dad was actually baking some salmon pieces, and so I was helping him out because he doesn't know how to use our oven, and so I started the oven, but I was like, I wonder if I could, and then I pressed like the down button, and then I was able to get it low. I was like, oh, holy hell!
It changed your life.
Yeah, it changed my life. Yeah, because when you do reverse sear, especially in the oven, it has to be really low, like maybe like 200.
Yeah.
Yeah, for at least like 45 minutes. So, although, luckily my dad learned his lesson about steaks, and he doesn't get the one without any marbling.
That's good.
Yeah, because I remember that time I told you that story, and you were legitimately angry, or you were legitimately furious.
Oh God, I can't talk about that. I'm just gonna get angry. I have to go to sleep, and I had to go to sleep soon. I don't want to have like nightmares.
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah, we kind of broke a record for the longest Nocturnal Transmissions stream.
Oh, easily.
We're coming up on 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I think it's time for us to mosey.
Yeah. It's
time to hit the old dusty trail.
Yeah. Gotta hit the old dusty trail. But yeah, this is the nature of conversations. Sometimes you get into that right groove, or you get into that right subject, and you're just able to talk for hours.
I will say this: it did not feel like 2 hours.
No, not at all. And it's crazy because because we always we were in the beginning, we were fearful that we weren't able to fill the quota of an hour. But now we're like easily doing hours, and and now we're like comfortably going, and then we started comfortably going into like hour and a half, and I mean today we did 2.5 hours.
Yeah, we blasted past it.
Yeah. So I think we're old hats at this now.
It's true. I mean, God, we've been doing this for a little bit now.
Yeah, I mean we've been doing this for like a year.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, I guess that's where we're gonna leave it. I hope you were entertained. I hope I hope you weren't holding back any rage, because that's what the comment section's for, and that's where that's where you unload and tell us how much of how evil we are and what Nazis and what bigots we are. Just
Yep.
get it all out there. Just get it all out there in the live, in the live chat. Just get it all out there. Just get it all out there. Please don't be afraid to jump in the live chat and tell us off, or tell us if if you agree with us, disagree with us. If you want to suggest certain topics. I mean, I know we put in the topics in the title, but
we're
we
not
are always
limited to those topics.
What was it?
We're not limited to those topics.
Right. We're not limited to those topics.
As we saw to Andy's several rabbit trails that he went down.
Well, what?
As we saw from your rabbit trails that we went down this week, we're not limited to just the topics of conversation at hand.
Ah, yes. Indeed. Nice zinger there. Was there anything you wanted to add, or a thought to leave with the good people?
Well, like we've been talking about, we're not we're not making light of suicide, and if you really are struggling through stuff, go get the help you need. Don't just don't look to end your life as the answer. There's so many other things that you can do to help yourself, and suicide's just not the answer. So don't do it. As always, if you are looking for something lighter to entertain yourself with this week, join our channel on Thursdays and watch some gaming stuff with Up by Up Down, my show on Thursdays. So look forward to that.
You heard the man. Don't forget to also follow us on our social media accounts. On Instagram, Circle of Jerks Podcast, and Twitter @PodcastCOJ. And with that, we thank you for joining us. Don't forget to do it again next week at 8 p.m.-ish, around, sort of. And we'll do it all again next week.
Sounds like a plan.
Good night.